The Galaxy S4 launch is a really big deal. It's just one of those phones that ignites the whole phone world. It's probably one of the biggest of the year. Certainly Apple's phones are incredibly important, but Samsung really are competing at the cutting edge, and if anyone's going to innovate this year, it could well be Samsung.
The Samsung Galaxy S4 is a huge deal because it's filling the boots of the Samsung Galaxy S3, last year's biggest selling phone. Samsung will want to continue its dominance at the top end of the market, and the S4 is the phone to do that. So that's really a lot of pressure.
Well, the Samsung Galaxy S3 was quite a surprise really, because no one expected the phone to have the same sort of fervour as Apple did with the iPhone. What's got everyone in imagination now is the Galaxy S2 was a really huge phone, and now the Galaxy S4 is the time when they're going to come to the end of their contract. So people are looking for the next big thing, and the Galaxy S4 is what people are looking for.
It's actually Samsung's Unpacked event, but we're all expecting to see the Samsung Galaxy S4. The Samsung Galaxy S launches are always a big deal because they raise the bar for all the Android phones. We've already seen the HTC One, which looks like it's going to be an amazing handset. Can the S4 actually compete? We're going to find out.
Well, obviously the Samsung Galaxy S4, it's the highlight feature, it's the highlight device that's going to be at the Unpacked event, and it's what everyone wants to know about. There may be a couple of other little bits here and there, maybe some new software, maybe a couple of extra devices, but no one really wants to hear about that. What they want to hear about is the S4.
Well, obviously the big reveal in New York is going to be the S4, and what people are excited about hearing is what's going to be innovating on top of that. The design, it's not going to go too much further than a rectangle with sort of rounded edges, but what innovation is going to be? There's going to be 3D tracking. Is there going to be a new kind of camera? So everyone's really interested to see what's going to happen on that front, rather than just what it really looks like.
I think a lot of people are wondering if this is kind of Samsung overtaking Apple, blowing it out of the water, that kind of thing. I think the truth is it's a big phone market, and there's always going to be a market for those Apple iPhones. Lots of people are very invested in the whole kind of community around the iPhone, and people love what Apple do. Samsung just gives people another option, and I think that's actually really important. To be a really good industry, what we need is lots of people competing, because it makes sure that there's innovation, and that's really crucial to everybody.
I mean, it's very touch and go. Some people already say Samsung is already better than Apple, and others will say Apple is still on top of Samsung. It's very sort of a Marmite thing. It's whatever side you stand on a lot of the time. So people are very passionate about the brands they want, and depending on who you talk to, you'll see two different sides to the story, really.
I don't think Samsung is ever going to overtake Apple in the way that the smartphone market works. It might do it in sales, but it will never do it in possibly brand loyalty, and that's what's really key for Apple and always has been throughout the ages. Samsung's time at the top is obviously well documented, but it seems that at any given moment another competitor could come in, take that crown, and it still be versus Apple no matter who it is trying to compete.
The things that Samsung could really do with bringing to the table are some really key innovations. There's a lot of talk about things like eye tracking and things like that, but really what we want is just something that has a wow factor. There's no point just having another phone, a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, nicer screen. We're kind of used to that kind of thing. What we really want is something that comes along and makes us go, yeah, that's what I want in my phone.
If Samsung really want to blow me away, they need to bring something huge to the table, something that makes me stand back and go, wow, that is amazing. The Galaxy S2 was just an all-round quality phone. It had everything. It got 5 stars in our review. Brilliant. It answered every question that we required of it. The fear is with the S4, it's going to be quite a lot like the S3 and maybe not have the same wow factor as previous phones, which is a concern. So we hope Samsung has kept something behind locked doors to really surprise us.
The thing Samsung really needs to bring to the table is something that's actually a bit different, hopefully with design, but it looks like it's not going to be that way. And so it needs to be that on innovation. It needs to be a 3D display that isn't 3D because it can track my eyes. It needs to scroll when I look down at the bottom of the screen. It needs to be a camera that adds something more than just more pictures, better resolution. So what it really needs to do is innovate. It needs to say the smartphone user needs these things, whether it be better battery life, more processing power, all that kind of stuff, and actually deliver it rather than just saying, oh, here's the greatest new feature, you must love it.
Well, I think it's an interesting year for the S4 because Apple didn't really bring anything hugely different to the table with the iPhone 5, so actually Samsung don't really need to do that much to keep ahead of them. Saying that, I think that they'll be very aware that this is the time when they can really show Android as a platform that everyone should be looking at. There's probably a lot of people wondering whether it's time to leave the Apple ecosystem, and therefore there's going to be a lot of people seeing if this is a phone that they actually want to go for. Whether they can actually manage that and tempt people away from Apple, that's a whole nother matter.
Well, from all the rumours that we're hearing, it's going to be more of an iteration more than a revolution in the Galaxy range. The S4 is going to get a bit more power, it's going to get a slightly bigger screen at a higher resolution, some more software features like as eye tracking and stuff like that, but we're fearing that it's not going to have the same wow factor as in previous years.
The good thing about the Samsung Galaxy S4 is it's been fairly shrouded in secrecy. We know about the design, but we don't know too much about what's going to be innovated on top of that. I mean, we've seen patents around 3D, we've seen possibly some stuff about smart scrolling, but there's definitely going to be a lot more from Samsung in terms of the way the phone works, the whole experience, giving consumers something to really get on board with, rather than just an S3 Plus, which is what people are worried might happen.
I think every time there's a major event like this, we're waiting for the one more thing moment, which is obviously Jobs' catchphrase. I think that the chances are we're not going to see anything that completely blows our minds, but wouldn't it be nice if they just chucked in a surprise?
Well, anything is possible, and companies are always innovating, they're always developing, they're always bringing out new things. I mean, we will see a Galaxy S4 Mini almost certainly sometime this year. If it arrives this week, well, that's not so sure. Samsung will probably want to keep the focus on the main S4 and then leave the Mini for a few months down the line.
I think the Galaxy S4 Mini is very unlikely, because if you launch the Galaxy S4, you want the phone launch to be all about that. You don't want to say, but if you can't afford it, here's another alternative. That's something for a few months down the line when everyone's thought, well, can I afford an S4? But no, I really can't. And then suddenly Samsung pops up and gives them something. The exact same thing happened with the Galaxy S3 Mini, and despite being very expensive, it's actually selling quite well. The smartwatch, now that's definitely something that could happen. I mean, Apple's iWatch has been much rumoured, and Samsung's definitely going to get involved with that. Whether it'll announce it ahead of Apple, it stands to be seen, because you know the smartphone watch market is still really nascent. So whether Samsung's got that in development rather than announcing it on Thursday still remains to be seen.